These are sperm whales, just hanging there. Not moving, not swimming, completely vertical in the open ocean, like gravity simply didn't apply. This is how they sleep. And if that already seems bizarre to you, buckle up, because we haven't even gotten to the part where their face is full of wax. Sperm whales are the largest toothed predators on Earth, bigger than any shark, bigger than any other hunting animal alive today. The males can reach 18 meters long and weigh up to 57 tons. They live in every ocean on the planet, anywhere there's deep water, from the poles to the equator. But here's what you need to understand about sperm whales right from the start. Everything about them is extreme. Their dives, their size, their brains, their voices, their social lives. Each one of these things, on its own, would make them remarkable. Together, they make the sperm whale arguably the strangest, most sophisticated, most utterly bizarre animal on the planet. And the deeper we go into what makes them tick, the weirder it gets. Let's start with the diving, because even that alone is hard to believe. Sperm whales descend over a kilometer into the ocean, into complete, crushing, absolute darkness, where the pressure is 120 times what you feel standing at the surface right now. A pressure so intense it would kill most creatures before they even got close, and they do this to hunt. Their prey of choice? Giant squid. Enormous, fast, tentacled creatures that nobody has ever filmed being caught. We only know sperm whales eat them because we find the evidence afterward. Circular scars from squid suckers carved into the whale's skin, and indigestible squid beaks turning up inside their stomachs, like receipts from a restaurant nobody can visit. So picture this. The largest toothed predator on Earth, diving a kilometer into total darkness to fight a giant squid in a battle no human has ever witnessed. And we're only getting started. Here's a question worth sitting with for a moment. How do you get a naturally buoyant 60-ton animal to sink? Because that's the problem sperm whales have to solve every single time they dive. They float. Their bodies want to stay at the surface, and yet they need to descend fast, efficiently, and repeatedly for their entire lives. Evolution's answer to this problem is so strange that when scientists first properly described it, the rest of the scientific community had a hard time believing it. Inside the massive, boxy head of a sperm whale, which takes up about a third of its entire body length, by the way, there's a large cavity filled with a waxy, oily substance. So unusual, so completely unlike anything else in nature, that when whalers first discovered it centuries ago, they convinced themselves it must be sperm. It was not sperm. It is called spermaceti, and it is one of the most remarkable biological materials ever discovered. When a sperm whale is at the surface, the spermaceti is warm and liquid. But as the whale dives and cold water flows through its nasal passages, scientists believe the spermaceti begins to solidify. And as it solidifies, it becomes denser, heavier. It acts essentially like a set of diving weights built directly into the animal's skull, helping pull the whale downward without burning extra energy. Nature invented ballast tanks inside a whale's face, but getting down there is only half the challenge. Surviving it is the other half. As a sperm whale descends, something happens that would be immediately fatal to you or me. The pressure builds so fast and so intensely that the whale's lungs begin to collapse. Now, before you panic on the whale's behalf, this is fine. This is actually the plan. The rib cage is hinged, and it folds inward around the collapsing lungs, squeezing the remaining air up into the trachea where it can't cause problems. The lungs essentially shut down mid-dive. So how does it survive nearly 2 hours underwater with non-functional lungs? It cheats beautifully. Sperm whales carry roughly twice the hemoglobin of a human and about 10 times the myoglobin. These are the molecules that carry and store oxygen in blood and muscle tissue, which means a sperm whale's body is essentially a giant pressurized oxygen tank. One it fills at the surface and slowly depletes on the way down and back. On top of that, its heart rate drops dramatically during the dive, a process called bradycardia. Everything slows down. Everything becomes efficient. The whale enters a kind of controlled low-power mode, conserving every last molecule of oxygen for what actually matters. And then there's decompression sickness, the bends, the thing that makes deep diving genuinely terrifying for humans. When dissolved nitrogen forms, bubbles in your tissue, as you ascend too quickly, causing agonizing pain and potentially death. For years, scientists assumed sperm whales were simply immune. Their physiology seemed designed to prevent nitrogen from dissolving into their tissues in the first place. Then, in 2002, 14 beaked whales beached themselves and died following a naval sonar exercise near the Canary Islands. Autopsies found gas bubbles in their tissues. Whales can get the bends, they're just extremely good at avoiding them, until something forces them to ascend faster than their bodies can safely handle, like a naval vessel pinging sonar directly at them. That detail should probably sit with you for a moment. Alright, so we have a whale with a face full of solidifying wax, collapsing lungs, and a built-in oxygen tank. Strange enough? Not even close. Because now we have to talk about the noise. Sperm whales are the loudest animals on Earth. Not just the loudest marine mammal, not just the loudest whale, the loudest animal. Their clicks can reach 236 decibels. Human eardrums burst at around 150. Our pain threshold sits at roughly 110, the same level as a jet engine heard from 100 feet away. A normal conversation between two people is about 60 decibels. Freedivers who swim near sperm whales describe the experience of being close to one when it clicks as feeling the sound move through their entire body. Not hearing it, feeling it. The vibration passing through the chest like a physical force. Could a sperm whale vocalization kill a human? No documented cases, but researchers don't rule it out entirely. Luckily, we are not on the sperm whale's menu. If you were a giant squid, those sonic blasts would be a very different story. Now here's the part that gets genuinely fascinating. How does an animal make a sound that powerful? Remember that enormous nose we talked about? The one filled with spermaceti that takes up a third of the whale's entire body? That nose is also, simultaneously, the most powerful sound system in the animal kingdom. At the very front of the head, two large internal structures. Researchers called them lips because of what they resemble, and look, sometimes scientific naming is just what it is, click together like castanets. That click sends a vibration through the spermaceti organ until it hits an air sac at the back of the skull, which reflects the sound forward again. The signal then passes through a series of structures at the front of the head that modify and focus it into either a sharp directional beam or a low, wide rumble. Those structures, by the way, were dismissed as completely useless by the whalers who first encountered them. They literally named that part of the whale's head the junk, the most acoustically sophisticated biological structure ever discovered. Named the junk because nobody could figure out what it did. Scientists, everybody. Here's where things shift from fascinating to genuinely mind-bending. And all that noise isn't just for hunting. Sperm whales talk. They have a complex system of click patterns called codas. Rhythmic sequences that differ between social groups, between individuals, and even between entire clans from different parts of the world. Researchers have identified that clans living in different ocean regions have completely distinct coda repertoires. Different patterns, different rhythms, different combinations, almost like regional dialects. That's culture in a whale. And here's the detail that will really stop you. Calves can't produce recognizable codas for up to 2 years after birth. Before that, they produce formless, unstructured clicking. Fumbling attempts at patterns they haven't quite mastered yet. They babble, exactly like human babies learning to speak. The whales aren't born knowing their language. They learn it from their family. Over years, and recently researchers found something even more striking, that the codas differ slightly, but consistently, between individuals. Stable enough patterns that each whale appears to carry its own unique identifier embedded in the way it communicates. A name. Sperm whales may give each other names. And if you want one final piece of evidence that these animals are operating on a level we're only beginning to understand, consider this. When researchers analyzed historical whaling records from the 19th century, they found that successful harpoon strikes dropped by more than 50% within just a few years of hunters arriving in a new area. That's too fast to be explained by simply running out of whales. The researchers believe the sperm whales were sharing information, passing strategies through their social networks, learning from each other's experiences, and actively changing their behavior to avoid being caught. A species with the largest brain ever recorded, up to 9 kilograms, roughly 6 times the size of a human brain, was apparently coordinating a defense against human hunters using a communication system we still don't fully understand. Sperm whales live in tight matrilineal clans. Calves nurse for up to 13 years. Every member of the group helps raise the young. A collective babysitting system that allows mothers to keep diving while their calves are looked after by the rest of the family. For years, the adult males were considered some of the loneliest creatures on the planet, solitary wanderers cut off from family life. But more recent research overturned that idea completely. Many male sperm whales spend significant time with close male companions. migrating together, feeding together, sometimes, tragically, stranding together. These are not simple animals drifting through the ocean on instinct. These are creatures with families, friendships, dialects, names, and the apparent ability to teach each other how to survive. We are only beginning to understand what sperm whale communication actually means. We know some clicks are for long-range echolocation, some are for targeting prey at close range, some are social, some seem to carry individual identity, and researchers are currently using machine learning to attempt something that would have sounded like science fiction 20 years ago, building the first translation dictionary between human language and sperm whale codas. That project is still ongoing, and if it works, it will be one of the most significant moments in the history of science. Because here's where we land. You have an animal that sleeps vertically in the open ocean. That dives a kilometer into darkness with collapsing lungs and a face full of solidifying wax. That produces the loudest sounds of any creature alive. That navigates by echolocation, hunts prey we've never seen caught, carries a built-in oxygen tank in its blood, raises calves in tight family units, teaches its young a language that takes years to learn, gives each other names, and organized a defense against 19th century hunters. And we're only just beginning to understand them. The deeper you go, the weirder sperm whales get. And the weirder they get, the more it starts to feel less like we're studying an animal, and more like we're slowly, carefully, making first contact with something that has been here far longer than we have. Something that thinks, something that communicates, something that, if we're being completely honest, might be looking back at us with exactly as much curiosity as we have looking at it.